Let's see a demo now. We'll create a table in DynamoDB with the name AWS Foundation Dynamo Table 1. We'll provision with 25 RCUs and 5 WCUs. We'll also insert 100 items. We'll see a new thing which is called TTL or time to live attribute. We'll build global and local secondary indexes on the table while creating the table. Also, after the table is created, we'll create one more GSI and we'll try to add one LSI. I have not discussed auto-scaling in DynamoDB, which we'll see in the demo itself. Log into the management console and go to DynamoDB from here, database and DynamoDB, or else you can type it here as well. This is the DynamoDB landing page. You have dashboard and then tables, backups, reserves capacity. We'll not talk about DynamoDB acceleration at all, so I'll skip these portions. The first thing you do in DynamoDB is create a table. Go to tables and then click on create table. Give it a name. So while creating the table, you'll have to provide the primary key. In primary key, you can mention only partition key or both partition key and sort key. I'll mention only partition key as employee ID and I'll give it a type of number. If you want, you can add a sort key by clicking here and then you can add a sort key, something like this. I'll not add any sort key. You know the concept of sort key, that should be more than enough. In the bottom portion, it asks to provide table settings. As of now, the use default settings is checked. In default settings, you cannot create any secondary indexes. The provision read and write capacities are set at 5 each. It will have a basic alarm and on-demand backup and restore. I'll uncheck this one and we'll try to see what options are there while creating a table. The first thing it says whether you want to create a secondary index or not. We'll create a secondary index. For LSI, the partition key has to be same as that of base table. If you want, you can add sort key. Employee ID is number and name is string. I have mentioned index name as AWS-Foundation-IX1 and then projected attributes. Do you want to put all base table attributes in the index, or you want to project only the base table keys, or include a specific column? So what I'll say is I'll include specific column. In projected attributes, I have mentioned include and I'm including these two attributes from the base table. As I said, you can put only the keys of the base table in the index or all the attributes of the base table to the index. If you do not check this one, then it will create a GSI. So click on this and create a local secondary index. Then you have read capacity units and write capacity units grayed out. You cannot do any modifications here because of auto scaling. So let me uncheck auto scaling. So based on your application requirement, you can mention how many RCU and how many WCU you want. As per the demo, we are supposed to create this table with 25 RCU and 5 WCU. It will cost you approximately $5 a month. Instead of that, you can use auto scaling, which is a very nice feature. In auto scaling, you do not have to pre-provision your capacity units. You can say this should be my minimum provision read capacity and this should be my maximum provision read capacity. And whenever workload increases, increase the capacity dynamically. Whenever workload decreases, go ahead and decrease the capacity units dynamically. This is similar to our auto scaling feature which we had in auto scaling groups. But in this case, instead of adding EC2 instances, we are actually adding and removing capacity units. There is one more thing here, which is target utilization. The formula of target utilization is actual capacity by provision capacity. That means currently your provision capacity is 100 and then currently your actual usage is 60. Then target utilization would be 60%. So what it says here is, this is the scaling policy based on which you want auto scaling of DynamoDB to increase or decrease the capacity units. Suppose your actual capacity currently is 100 RCU. Then what DynamoDB will do, it will have 100 by 0.7 of read capacity units provisioned for you. Anytime throughout the life cycle of this table, your actual capacity will always be 70% of your provision capacity. That's how DynamoDB will scale out. Suppose your actual capacity, as I said, if it is 100 RCU right now, you'll have 100 by 0.7 of actual read capacity provision. If it increases to say 200, then 200 by 0.7 of read capacity units would be provisioned. That's how the scaling is done. So based on target utilization, the scale in and scale out happens. And the same is true for write also. If your current WCU usage is 70, then DynamoDB will provision 100 WCU for this table. As of now, I'll not use this one. And then finally, you have enable encryption. This is encryption at rest, similar to EFS, S3 and EBS. But here, you cannot use any KMS key. You'll have to use the default key provided by DynamoDB. I'll uncheck this one and click on create. I'm getting this error saying that I have added a range key in my index, but I do not have any range key in the base table. So you cannot add a range key or a sort key if you do not have that in your base table. The table is being created. I added a different sort key, which is location, in the base table. It will take some time for this table to be created. The table has been created. So go to the tables tab and then click on this table. It will show you all the options which you have used to create this table. The primary partition key, the primary sort key, whether encryption is enabled or not, what is the current table status, provisioned RCU and WCU. As of now, what is the storage size? It is 0 because you have not inserted any items here. What is the ARN? So this is the ARN of this table. Then you have multiple tabs here. The second tab is item. You can create an item from console also, which does not make much sense because you'll mostly insert records from a program. So let us go ahead and insert a few. Essentially, I have inserted one item in this table. Let me go ahead and create one more item. I can add another attributes also. Either I can append or I can insert or I can remove. So what I'll do is I'll append another string. So this item has an additional attribute tech which is not there in the first item. I have added a total of 4 items here. Then you have matrix. This is part of CloudWatch, which we'll discuss later on. Capacity, you can change the read capacity and write capacity units. You can enable auto scaling from here also. If you have not enabled auto scaling while creating the table, you can come to this capacity tab and then just check these two options and then enable auto scaling for your capacity units. Indexes, we have already created local secondary index while creating the table. Now I'll create global secondary index and I'll try to add one more LSI or local secondary index. Click on create index. If you see here, everything is similar. This is the index name and what attributes you want to project in your index. Let me mention all here. As I mentioned earlier, GSIs or global secondary indexes are tables by themselves. So your GSIs can have different RCUs and WCUs from your base table. Go ahead and click on create index. The global secondary index is being created. You cannot add or create any other index while one index is in the process of being created. We'll have to wait for this index creation to get completed. Then only we can add additional indexes. The index has been created. Let me go ahead and try to create one more index. No matter how many indexes you try to add, all indexes would be GSI. So you cannot create a local secondary index or LSI once the table has been created. We have an attribute in DynamoDB which is called time to live or TTL. You have seen TTL in Route 53. In DynamoDB, if you create a TTL attribute, you mention some time. After that time, all those items would be deleted automatically. You don't have to do anything. To add TTL, click on Manage TTL. I'll ask you a TTL attribute. I have added a TTL with this attribute created. What if some of my items do not have that attribute at all? In that case, those items will never be expired or deleted automatically. If you want, you can disable the TTL attribute. Click on Manage TTL and then click on Disable. Then you have an option named Alarm. These alarms are created automatically by DynamoDB the moment we enable auto scaling. You have seen in our auto-scaling session that for auto-scaling group to create or launch new EC2 instances or to remove EC2 instances or basically to scale out and scale in, alarms are needed. Based on alarms, scaling events occur. Similarly, in DynamoDB auto-scaling also, we need alarms to do the same. But in DynamoDB, we do not create the alarms. The alarms are created automatically by DynamoDB itself. That is all in part 1. Thanks for watching.